What's the craziest crime you or somebody in your family has committed? Last year, my psychotic mother burned down my childhood home, that her, my dad, my niece, my sibling, and sibling's partner lived in, because she believed my dad was cheating on her, despite no evidence, and this was not the first time she accused my dad of cheating with no evidence. Effectively, she destroyed everything we had built and kept in that home, along with my dad's dog and my sister's cat. Cat was burned up, so never found, but the dog died of asphyxiation in my niece's room under her bed. Then after the fire, in what I can only construe as an act of desperation, she went to my bank and stole all of the money out of my accounts because she was secondary on the accounts. I was working on changing banks, but my new bank had yet to finalize the creation of my new account. Moral of the story is take your parents off your bank accounts when you turn 18. She's now serving time in a county jail for the arson because she took a plea deal and got a reduced sentence, which I still believe was utter crap. She played the poor old lady act to the judge, and he took pity on her that she did not deserve. This is the woman who eviscerated my self-esteem and made my life hell ever since I was born. She was toxic and abusive, never told me the truth about anything, and is a greedy, manipulative person. I feel no shame in saying that I do not care about her. She's lost any right to my love and respect. My mom set a dude on fire. When I was young, I had a babysitter, named Chris. He was the uncle of my two best friends, sisters Abby and Becca. He was also abusive. He liked to do things to me in front of them. Make them listen to my cry and scream. Nothing physical, I should mention. More psychological. Anyway, I didn't tell anyone about it. And in fact only learned this story about 2 years ago. But it turns out that my best friends did. They told my mom and she was pissed. Soon after that, there's a party at my friend's parents' house. My mom goes and sees Chris. He's all nice to her. They're outside in the backyard. She starts kind of joking around. Roughhousing. Messing with him. She grabs some lighter fluid and sprays some on him. Ha ha ha, just a joke. She lights a match. Ha. You wouldn't do it, would you? And she lights him on fire. According to my mom, he was put out quickly, so he was fine. But she told him that's what it's like when you're scared for your life. And then she left. Apparently he flew back to Florida the next day. Your mom sounds like a great lady. I'm glad she protected you from more of that. My dad's cousin erased all family member names from a property deed except for his father's. The paperwork had been water damaged, so there was no easy way to tell what should have been there. Family lore says that he also paid off some local politicians, office workers to make the new deed stand. My grandpa wouldn't obey the train warnings. He would try and beat the train rather than wait. First time he got hit in his new convertible on the way to prom with my grandma. Had barely started on the payments and car was totaled. Luckily they were both okay. Second time was a little less reckless but still dumb. He was driving a semi and it broke down on the tracks. He kept trying to get the tractor trailer to start, rather than lose his rig and load. Semi got hit by the train, total loss, and effed up his back. Your grandpa is a effing idiot. He's very lucky he, your grandma, and all their offspring, you, exist. A distant cousin got her terminally ill father to give her power of attorney and then stole all of his money so she wouldn't have to split it with her brother. Edit, don't worry, she did go to jail as her rush to clean him out involved a lot of fraud and forgery. Edit 2, man, it is slightly depressing how many of you have similar stories. What's up with people? A guy I went to school with in the 70s emptied his dementia-ridden father's life savings while he lived with him. 60-some years old, and still stealing to support his coke habit. His sister found out, and he did 5 years, restitution, $80,000, no way he'll live long enough to pay that back, and 8 years probation. Something similar happened to my uncle, except he wasn't terminally ill. He was working in China and his longtime partner was trying to poison him, in food/pills she sent him. Meanwhile at home she got power of attorney and put him hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt, buying expensive stuff, paying off her kids' debt, etc. She went to the bank and got a friend to forge the POA. He finally realized that he felt sick whenever he took the items she gave him and found out what she was doing. He came home and tried to get her arrested, but I don't think she ended up doing much time at all. He's still in huge debt from her and mainly lives in the Philippines. Must have not been a very effective poison. My uncle sold Tim Allen the cocaine that got him sent to prison in the late 70s. So did Tim rat out your uncle? Sure it did. Then my uncle ratted out others. I honestly don't know much about it beyond that, don't have much contact with that part of the family. My uncle was a pathological liar and a very troubled guy. He died by suicide about 10 years ago. My uncle was a pathological liar. Well, then maybe he wasn't the one that sold Tim that coke. My friend got blackout drunk and stole a bulldozer that had the keys left in it. He turned it on and obviously didn't know how to drive it, so he just ended up making the scoopy part go up and down for a bit before the cops came. They actually let him go too. Scoopy part. He ain't wrong. The worst part is this isn't exactly rare. Lol, they leave the keys in the things all the time. Plus I think there's only a few different cuts of keys they use, at least that's how it used to be. I know someone that was getting their street worked on, and they left the thing parked in a way that kind of blocked his driveway. So he went out, used his ring of keys until he found the one that fit it, and drove it across the street and parked it. I hope they were really confused about how it got moved. Lol. Speaking as the son of a construction company owner, if the keys aren't in the ignition, there's a 100% chance they're hidden in the cab. Guy who used to go to my school led the cops on a 1-hour chase riding a bulldozer. Eventually the thing ran out of gas and that's when he got arrested. I laughed out loud at the scoopy part. My grandfather's cousin stabbed a waiter to death because he wouldn't let him use the employees-only restroom in his restaurant. Is your grandfather's cousin Jack Henry Abbott? Yes. Have you read his book about life in prison? It's an experience. I have. When you got to go. And that waiter just had to go. That's a straight-up 80s action flick one-liner right there. My husband's dad killed the guy who his then-girlfriend was cheating on him with. He was supposed to serve a life term but got out because of a clerical error. He did manual labor on a local park and apparently the guys who helped were supposed to get a reduced sentence. However, he was not supposed to. I think my husband talked about it once. Also, my husband's half-brother, same murderous dad, killed his business partner. He would have gotten away with it, however, he moved the body when he found out construction was going to start in that spot. And what were they going to build there? A prison. He's currently serving a life sentence. My husband has never met his half-brother. He also has 2 half-sisters from the same dad who are law-abiding citizens. 2 half-sisters that didn't get caught. So that's 1 whole sister, got it. Edit, holy crap. Thank you, Reddit person/peoples for the shiny awards. Sending digital hugs and well wishes to you and your friends, cheers to then, now, and the future, from this fellow interwebs being. I worked at a movie theater when Back to the Future was originally released. We used to take the entire movie ticket instead of tearing them and resell them to the next group coming in. The old theater was massive. Sat 600 people. We probably made about $15,000 between 2 of us a month or so. Adjusted for inflation, it's about $37,000. We were the richest high school kids in our town. Didn't the theater suspect that something was going on? I mean, thousands of people watching it, but official ticket sales are a few hundred people? You'd be surprised how little theater managers care. As long as those people are buying concessions. Friend is a manger at a local theater and he hands out those complimentary tickets like candy on Halloween. Haven't had to pay for a movie in like a year before COVID. But always buy a large popcorn to help out. Plus it was the 80s. Probably a whole lot easier to get away with cooking the books back then. Apparently to the point that hundreds of movie ticket sales could go missing without anyone noticing. As a kid in the OOs at an airport cafe, I thought it was a bit odd for a second when a cashier handed me my change out of a tip basket and didn't press any buttons on the register before my folks explained what she was doing. It seems like the perfect crime, since it was baked goods that couldn't last overnight, so she could just claim went unsold and were discarded at the end of the day. I sat and observed afterward, and whenever someone bought only things with a short shelf life and paid cash, she'd hand them the change out of the tip basket. I had a girl just do this to me at a Potbelly in an airport, and she shorted my change, which I didn't realize until walking away. She pocketed the whole thing. An uncle robbed a bank, or was an accessory to the robbers, I don't know. His brilliant escape when the police showed up was to go to the roof and jump off. He didn't do time, just had to go to the hospital for a broken leg. I'll have to ask my mom when I get a chance, she knows the story better than I do. Aim for the bushes. I'm a peacock, you've got to let me fly. Cousin got busted robbing a bank. Got sentenced to jail. Proceeded to break out of jail with his cellmate and went on the run. Fast forward a few months and he's living in a hotel room with his cellmate. Cellmate orders a pizza to the room, bad idea. Delivery guy recognized them and reported them to the police. They get arrested again, and shortly after my cousin killed himself in prison. My cousin had a wife and a kid and got into a nasty coke habit. We don't bring him up anymore. My dad told me he once snuck into a tire warehouse. He cut the alarm and came in through a window on the roof, and stole a bunch of tires. Does he have any leftover tires? I'm looking for some 235/65 R18s. My uncle went to prison for chaining a cop to the back of his bike and driving down the highway. Edit. I feel like an edit is needed here because I want to say I am not glorifying what my uncle did, I simply answered the question asked. This happened in the 1960s before I was born, so I do not have many details due to the timing. In fact, he married into the family, and that side of my family is not very close at all. What I do know is my uncle was a part of a very violent gang. I know nothing about what led to the attempted murder. Yes, the cop survived somehow, so I do not know if the cop was good or bad. But I do not believe very many people, if any, deserve to be tortured in such a manner, or any manner. My aunt had a boyfriend, let's call him Mike, because that was his name. He was always the life of the party, everyone loved him. Always holding my aunt from behind and kissing her neck. A little too much PDA, but hey, they were happy. Turns out Mike was abusive. Like, very abusive. Physically and mentally. The neck kissing was him whispering in her ear, berating my aunt for making a fool of herself dancing. My grandfather found out about the abuse. Went over to Mike's place, knocked on the door. When Mike answered, my grandfather put a gun to his head and said, "If I find out you ever touch my daughter again, I'll effing kill you." Welp, a few weeks later my aunt shows up with a black eye and a sling. Mike. He was found dead on the roof of his apartment building the following weekend. We all have zero doubt it was my grandfather's doing. As a successful lawyer, I am sure he had connections who could help. Edit, my grandfather never mentioned it. He simply said, "Oh, what a shame," when he found out. Never admitted to anything, but as far as I'm aware, there was not enough crime scene evidence found to charge anyone with a crime. No one misses Mike. It's true, F that guy. Her current husband is great. Your grandpa sounds similar to mine. My aunt had an abusive boyfriend when she was younger, and my grandpa sponsored a rugby team around that time. He heard this guy had laid his hands on her, and so told him that if it happened again to expect a visit from the team. When the guy asked if it was a threat, my grandpa replied it was a promise, and to my knowledge he never touched my aunt again. Decades later, I had a boyfriend in college who never laid a hand on me in front of them, but he was a butthole and Pop never liked him. After we broke up, I was with my grandparents when we ran into him in a restaurant. Ex flipped us off, which he didn't see, and we didn't mention to my grandpa until we were walking to the car. When my grandma told him, despite being in his 80s with 2 replacement knees, he turned on his heel and started walking back in. We stopped him, and he muttered the whole way home about breaking that effing finger off. I miss him just about daily. My dad, when he was much younger and infinitely more stupid, regularly used to drink drive with his friends. It was the early 70s, and no one really cared. To hear him speak about it now, he can't believe how stupid he was. One night, he and his friend were out drinking. They heard there was a party going on at a pub across town and decided to head over. On the way, they go past a large club with a queue of people waiting to go in. My dad decides to show off a bit and pull a skid. He miscalculated, hit a curb and flipped the car, sliding down the road on his roof. The car stops, they get out and leg it, to the cheers of the people in the queue. They get the bus back home and immediately call the police to report the car was stolen. The police knew what had happened, but couldn't prove anything. So your dad's story to the cops was the car was stolen and the thieves crashed it? If you have a police report about a stolen car, your insurance handles it differently than if you destroy it yourself. It's a whole new felony, but hey, it might work out, and we've already established that the driver doesn't make good decisions. Probably pretty easy to commit insurance fraud back then. A whole queue of people cheering for you destroying your car, and not a single cell phone video to be used as evidence. My dad brought in a banana tree to the US from his home village in Kerala. He literally walked through customs with a tree in a pot in his arms. The customs lady asked him what he was thinking, and he just replied that the banana tree was from his mother's garden. The customs lady must have thought my dad was crazy, but she just let him walk right through. We still have that tree and its offspring. Customs lady, this is crazy. Your dad, no, this is bananas. Thank you for watching. If you like our videos, please like them on YouTube. And share them with your friends. Please subscribe to be the first to know about Red Rabbit Reader's new videos. We welcome your comments below. Another of our videos will begin shortly.